Hello again, everyone. Welcome back along to Rugby 18. It's another day. It's another episode of the full team and player ratings in Rugby 18. Now, last episode, I got a bit carried away with the international side, so we're going to try and tone it down a little touch here today and try and not make this 3 hours long. So we've got the Pro 14, okay? So that's the new competition coming off the Pro 12 last year. We're going to be having one of these 14 clubs, which is going to take a while. So we're not spending too much time on each team like we have done in the past couple of episodes. We're trying to get through them quite quickly so it doesn't go so long. So Pro 14, one of the last two to go. Only the Pro 14 and Top 14 to go, and possibly Pro D2 as well. So we're going to kick things off here. Benetton Rugby, they are the first up under B, 72 rated, not quite as good as the international sides, but now that we've looked at more, there's going to be a lot of comparing going on from the international teams and the Aviva Premiership as well. So let's take a look what Benetton have and see what their players are capable of. So Benetton are one of the few teams with an exceptional front row, only rating 75 and 74 between the three players there, Ferrari, Geiger and Traore. So we look outside those guys and we do pop up to the 80s with Lazzaroni and Fusa, the Italian, of course, Fusa, and a couple in the front row as well, international quality players. But this has got me thinking straight away, maybe why this is Fiji is so strong in this game is because they don't have to compare to those club sides where they are also featured in the game as well. So that is one thing to keep in mind, maybe why Italy is so poorly rated and Fiji is not. But we're not going to dwell on that too much. Dean Budd's there as well. He's a 76. We already looked at him. Minto and Barbini round out the forward pack. The 68, really the lowest in that whole pack, but a good average overall, mid-70s to cracking those 80s. Gordy starts at scrum half, only 70. We've already talked about him as well. Tommaso Allen, a 76. A decent young little player as well for the Italian club and side. Benvenuti lines up on the left wing with Tagi Gakambau in inside centre. Interesting position for him to be there. Scarby plays 13. I think normally they're the other way around, but they're pretty versatile players, so you've got to be fair that they could probably play on the wings as well. Esposito out there, 70 rated. Ian McKinley is at fullback, also 70. Into the reserves bench, and we're still keeping pretty high ratings here for Benetton in the high 60s and low 70s, which is pretty good. Bronzini really does drop the ball a bit, going down to a 65, but they're 23, almost all 60 plus. Bizzani just a 58 as well, just drops him outside that quality player, which is one to remember actually. Career mode, episode 1, you guys pick the team. This is good for who we're going to pick up as well. And I'm looking at Alessandro Zani as a player 58 rated. That probably shouldn't cost too much in the career mode. So maybe one we could pick up there from the Italian side of things. Dropping out of that 23-man squad now, we're really falling away. Tabordi, another one, 65 only. Pretty low ratings here for some, not quality international players, but still fully fledged internationals at a Six Nations sort of level. Morossi's here as well. He cracks a 70, which is not too bad. They've only got 32 players. I was going to say last three, you see if we can get some good ones, but no, just a 58 from Ioane, and that does wrap up their squad for Benetton. First one down, average as we expected. A lot of international Italians in there, but a solid team. I think there's a lot of prospects that we could steal for the career mode, which is what I'm looking at more than anything at the moment. But does explain why Italy is such a poorly rated team, because these guys from the Pro 14 have to match up with the others. So it kind of does make a little bit of sense now why, but Fiji still doesn't. Okay, we're moving to the second team of the Pro 14. It's the Cardiff Blues, but we don't actually increase at all our overall rating. It is Benetton and Cardiff both rated 72, which is interesting to start off. Let's see if their squad overall is any better between these two teams. So Kristen Darcy is the standout of this Cardiff Blues front row. The only man to crack into the 80s and the only one really to get anywhere near it as well. Scott Andrews dropping down under 70 as well in that starting 15. And Macaulay Cook and George Earl line up in the second row, both mid and high 70s, which isn't too bad. And then we see what is really the standout of this whole Cardiff Blues side, Sam Warburton with an 89. Having a player almost crack that 90 is massive for a club team like this. Turnbull and Navadi in the rest of the back row, 72 and 74 rated. Lloyd Williams drops it big time with a 62. Stephen Shingler, no picture, but still cracks a 77 rating as well. The back line, does it compare with the likes of what we've seen from Benetton? Bad start, big name Alex Cuthbert, but only a 73 rating doesn't do him any justice. Ray Lilo is actually rated higher, which is just crazy, given that Ray Lilo is anything but anywhere near an international jersey. Doesn't matter what country you put him in. Outside Willis Holo, oh, I mean, decent little player. He's had a good history in New Zealand. Played where I am down in the Southern Stags. Was pretty horrific player, but did learn a lot with his time at the Hurricanes as well. So he's progressed well. 69. I find that hard to justify, but he has developed well, and to be starting in this game in this team for the Cardiff Blues, 69 is decent rating for a player who could develop into something quite good if they can keep on top of him. Scully's outside that 66. I mean, it makes Holo look pretty good, doesn't it? And Matthew Morgan, 65, rounds it out. And some pretty low ratings here for the Cardiff Blues, which is a bit surprising. And they've got some decent enough players. Some players who, I mean, like Cuthbert, like Lilo, like Morgan at fullback, and Warburton, of course, in the forward pack. Turnbull as well, another one who you expect should be their core of good players in this team. But it's a very average sort of side, isn't it? Gareth Hanscom on the bench, a 75 rating. Yeah, I wouldn't give him any more than that either if I was doing these ratings. Gill gets a 73. We go through the rest of the substitutes. Let's go down to the 23. Nick Williams, how old is Nick Williams? 33. I mean, that guy's been around for a long time. Still gets a nice old 67 rating, but the rest of the bench does drop off pretty quickly. Bennett there just 60, keeping it just up above there over those fives. Into the reserves, and well, James Down is down here, second row, 74 rated. That's pretty good rating for a player that can't even make the reserves. Lewis Jones falls away again. Looks like they've got a decent squad here as well, the Cardiff Blues. Dan Fish is the first to fall under the 60s. He's just a 58, but they seem to have heaps more coming here. Smith is 63. Jared Evans, a nice 76 for a 21-year-old. He looks like a real talent for this Cardiff Blues side. 52 for Summerhill. Well, definitely seems to be an option for the career mode for sure. Oh, hang on, it's Giffen Jenkins. Wow, he's still going, 36 years old, and still pulls in a 69 rating. Respect there to Mr. Jenkins, but overall a pretty average looking Cardiff Blues team. A lot of low ratings, but they do have some really key players that put this team quite, I'd expect, higher. Compared to Benetton, you'd think that the likes of Warburtons, etc., would make this team that little notch above what Benetton, who is full of just middle-of-the-road average players, could muster. But there we go, 72 overall, and a tidy little squad. So the rating falls out of the green now. It goes down to the whites. It's the Cheetahs, the first team from Super Rugby to join the Pro 12 and make it the Pro 14. It is the Cheetahs, 69 overall. Doesn't sound too good for them, does it? I'd imagine if they've kept any players from Super Rugby, they could get well and truly kicked here with some dismal ratings. Let's take a look and see how bad the situation is for the Cheetahs. So again, it seems like the front row party club has well and truly ended into our third team of the Pro 14. The front row that consists of just one man over 70 rated, that is Van Jaarsveld. No one else is making it there. The second row though does get a good boost with Hugo and Besson both cracking that 70, and pretty much you got to say Hugo almost at 80 gives that tight 5 a good boost that is badly needed. Up in Maholje, this is one which needed to be good. He is a top level player, a Springbok in the past. He's a good player and a good flanker as well. 89, I feel, is maybe a bit good for him, but he's definitely the core and the best player in this back row of the Cheetahs. And you've got to say equally, Kazim is right there as well. Of course, played a lot of international rugby this year, and maybe 83 compared to Mahoje is a bit light, and you probably give Kazim a little bit more as well. Neil Jordan rounds it out at number 8. Experienced player, even though he's only 25, played off the Sharks if I'm not mistaken as well. Just a 71, I think that is just a touch light for a good solid overall player like Jordan is. Into the back line, Meyer lines up at scrum half, a 68, experienced man as well, South African rugby, but only manages a 68. I'd give him a low 70s, definitely put him into that mid-range sort of category. I think I'm going to find a lot of this to be quite light for the Cheetahs on ratings. Van der Spire gets a 70, playing a scrum half, playing as fly half, I should say. Unfortunately, it doesn't even pull up a picture for him, so that is one of those annoying little things that they miss out on. Raymond Rule in 83. This is what we talked about for South Africa. Only 85 speed. We know Raymond Rule is a pretty quick man. We know he can't tackle, which is surprising to see that at 80 and a speed only 85. Rest of the back line, Francois Venter gets a 73. Clinton Swart, a 73 as well. Well, I probably want to give Venter a little bit higher than Swart. We've got Mapimpi. Mapimpi's, oh, he left the Kings. Mapimpi, what are you doing? 54. That is terrible. That is disgusting. Mapimpi is a great little player. Very fast, very elusive, very dangerous on attack. And only goes 78 speed, a bit of a harsh call as well. He falls out with kicking. I mean, it's terrible to say it, but kicking is the one stat where good players are awesome and the players they want to be average are down on kicking. Mapimpi, that's a real disappointment as well. But we can take him back to the Kings. We can take him back. I like the sounds of that. Clayton Blumenties, a 58. And he's not the greatest player, but he's definitely at least in the 60s, mid-high 60s. Surely, Blumenties, a good player at this kind of level. Moving into the subs, Fred Selinga. Now, why would he not start? He's 71, and you've got to put him in the team. A player with great potential, but 71, you'd probably say, okay, I can live with that. That's fair enough. Wegner gets a 68. What's the rest of this team looking like? We go through the substitute bench. We've got Schoeman at the bottom, just 56. Van Rensburg, a 61. Henko Venter, a 63. Nothing too exciting there. Small Smith, a 58. I've seen him on the career mode when I was searching through some players. An option for us. Sergio Peterson is only 58. Wow, 82 speed. Peterson is a good player, a good finisher as well. I'm surprised that they've really given some of these outside backs from South Africa a really raw deal here. Some of them are alright, but the outside backs especially are where they have just cut them in pieces. Sean Venter is 62. Jacques Dutoy a 56. Man, these guys are really low. A lot down in the 50s and low 60s. Rhino Benjamin, a bit of an older player now on the wing. 87 though, he's faster than Sergio Peterson. Consistency's not very good there. Manea's sitting down on 70, another fly half option. They've got 3 pretty decent ones as well. And finally getting to our last couple of players. No, they don't have 35. Nico Lee at the bottom, 23-year-old centre, 70 rated though. That's not too bad. But I think really, I've got to question their outside backs. Like so, Peterson, definitely. Mapimpi as well, another one, massively underrated. And you think that's got to be a lot better. They've got speedy backs, fast outside backs, dangerous outside backs on their day, the Cheetahs, with those couple. And a team which I think should definitely be rated higher than 69. The trend continues of the Southern Hemisphere players getting a lot of awful ratings. I find it bad that they could sit there and say, well, we don't have access to Southern Hemisphere records and things like that. It's common sense, isn't it? It's common sense to just look back yourself and say, you know, the lowest rating in the game is 50. Is this guy only 8 points below that? Or 6 points below that, or above that, I should say. It's hard to really justify that in some people's case, like Sergio Peterson, who is a good Super Rugby level player as well and scores tries. He's only 23, and he can definitely be one of the great players of South African rugby in the future. Definitely deserves more than a 58 on this side. So that's a bit of a downer, I think. The Cheetahs definitely getting below par. Just moving 1 point up is Connacht Rugby. They are the next team in action. Just 1 point more makes you wonder how much better this team is going to be. We saw some disappointing points for the Cheetahs, and we haven't gone far for Connacht to get any much better. So let's take a look at what they got. So one thing they do have is consistency in their front row, with Bellum, McCartney and Buckley lining up with 3 decent little players. Tom McCartney, former Blue, of course, moving from Super Rugby across to play for Connacht. So a solid front row, 73s and 70s in there as well. Brown lines up alongside Dillian in the second row. Again, young and good, with one of them old and experienced in the other. Dawai, O'Brien and Heenan are the back row. Again, Dawai gets a really good rating because he's Fijian. 87, I mean, there's no way Dawai is at 87 at all. But it makes a very good pack of all players over 70 rated, or 70 and over, which is pretty much one of the best overall packs that we've seen so far. It does fall away quite convincingly, with Kieran Marmion in scrum half just getting a 64. That is questionable. Jack Carty sits with an 81, which is a very, very good rating for the fly half there at Connacht. Outside him, Matt Healy, it's a 68. Bundy Aki, 84. No, not for Bundy Aki. He's definitely a high 60s, low 70s, at best player in the midfield. Peter Robb, an 82. Haven't heard too much about him. What do you guys reckon about an 82 for Robb? And then on the wing, oh goodness me. Now this is a name and a half. Adeo Lucan. Is that what we're going to say it? Is that how it's going to be said? And we got Bosch off at the back. Of course, South African player getting a 73. So some ups and some downs in that back line. Ability and a few weaknesses, which has got to put questions with your 2 wingers only being mid to high 60s as well. Good centre pairing here in rating, but realistically they're not, especially Bundy Aki, going to set the world on fire, are they? Into the reserves bench, and Ronaldson sits first player there with an 81 as well. Craig Ronaldson. Now, I've never heard of this fellow, and he's an 81 rated player. Really puts the pressure on Jack Carty as the starting fly half in this team. What else you got? Cooney's a 70, Carey a 69. They do fall away quite quickly, as you'd expect. Your reserves should never be as good as your starting 15. Finishes off with Blade only picking up a 58. Into the reserves, not even making the bench. We've got some 60s, mid-60s. James Cannon a 77. Decent rating there for him. Ken Kelleher is 72 as well. So a couple of decent players there you'd think would make it into the bench at least. What else they got here? Quinn Rue, 74. That's another good locking option. A younger player as well. They want to go up that. Thomas Farrell gets a good boost. And finally, these last couple. Steve Crosby at the bottom. That is him, 73 rated. Another good fly half. So they got some good players here. Farrell, Crosby, Rue there. Kelleher, Cannon, even Griffin picks up his 70. So good depth off the bench here for Connacht. 70 rated. Going on those ratings, you'd think they get a bit more. But then when you got guys like Masterton down here, a leader as well in the 50s, it does drag things down. But a decent squad for Connacht. Strong enough with some key men in that side as well. That can definitely, well, they do lift it up, even if it's not justified, like we've seen from Bundy Aki. Edinburgh are the next team in the list, and this team is also 70 rated, so there's quite a lot of closeness in this team. Do they have any star players, though? They will pick that rating up, and where do they fall short? Are they consistent, or are they stars and duds? Okay, so the Scots are coming into this side thick and fast now. Only 70 rated, but I always look at this little graph here at the top left. Every episode we talk about it. Their forwards are massive. Their backs and substitutes are way down. So if they could match their forwards, I'd say that would be at least nearly 80, I'd say. A 78 sort of rating there if they could get that up a bit more. But you look at this team, the forward pack is superb. Dell, Ford and Berrigan all sitting 72, 87 and 84. That is huge. I mean, Berrigan's probably the weak point there. If you could swap him out for someone in the 80s, that would be massive. Toulis and Mata both sitting there in the 80s. Another Fijian who is just blossoming far beyond what he should be. Hamish Watson, John Hardy and Magnus Bradbury all in the 80s as well. 3 very, very good back rows. I mean, this kid here is only 22, yet he cracks an 85 rating, better than John Hardy, who's been around the traps for years. But you got to say overall, that is an extraordinary good forward pack for Edinburgh. But they do fall away quite convincingly in the back line. Is that a fair forward pack rating though? I mean, these guys, internationals, a Fijian who is far beyond what he should be. More superstars for Scotland in there as well. And this young, well, he's not too young, is he? Simon Berrigan, 26 years old, but still gets a 72. Tallest as well in the Scottish side. And you got to say, there's international ability there. And it's what I spoke about last episode, where the international players should shine above what does the club players do at this point. And you can see that really here with a lot of them, and a young superstar in there as well. Sean Kennedy starts us off as scrum half. Duncan Ware, 74, decent rating for him. Hoyland gets an 86 on the wing. Wow, that is a great rating for that youngster on the left wing. Mark Bennett is 79. Chris Dean is 76. Tom Brown drags it down with a 65 on the right wing. And Kinghorn at fullback, 74. Now, looking at this team, that is a very good backline. If you could swap out Tom Brown and Sean Kennedy for someone else, that would be an extraordinary backline as well. And this Edinburgh side should be far better than 70 overall rated. They've got Grant Gilchrist on the wing, on the bench as well, a player who has plenty of international experience there. Jason Tuvey, another one of plenty of experience. Stuart McAnally, another one, 70 rated. McCallum is 69. Sullivan 70. I mean, why is this bench so low? Jamie Ritchie is 72. And Hidalgo Klein is just 63. So Cornell Dupree rounds out the bench with a 65. So it does fall away there. Must be some terrible players on the bench, on the reserves. 64 for now. Bresler's still a 73. They've got really good locking options. Phil Burley is a 74 as well. 64, Junior Russellia, another former Australian player, getting a crap rating as well. Kevin Bryce is 63. Falling away there, but Fraser McKenzie picks it up again with a 72 before it does really go down the toilet here with a whole list of 60s. Oh, and even 50s in there as well. Alistair Dickinson, a 66. Plenty of experience in that man as well, dropping all the way down to a 66 when he could be, first team starter for Edinburgh. Really good team. Edinburgh, I'd give them better rating than I would the last couple we've looked at as well. So that's a really good Edinburgh side. I think a bit overall underrated to what they've got on the paddock as well. That's a very, very nice looking team. From one Scottish team to another. Next up we have the Glasgow Warriors. Now they really pip it up a bit, don't they? They're up to 73 rated. And really over recent time, they've been one of the better performing sides, generally getting pretty good results over their last few seasons. 73 rated though, they must be the best team so far as well, I think. 72 was the next closest at the start. Do they have many more superstars though? Because I was quite impressed with that Edinburgh side. What more did Glasgow have that Edinburgh do not? Well, a quick look through this team tells you one thing they have as players in the 90s. Well, one player so far in the 90s and a lot in the high 80s as well. A front row, 85, 85, 79, Ferguson, Brown and Allen. That is a very, very good front row. Johnny Gray and Tim Swinson line up with 89 and 82. This is exceptional for Glasgow at the moment. Ryan Wilson, 83. Harley and Ash get a 79 and 72. Adam Ash, of course, another young protege Scottish player. In the backs, Paragos at 80. Finn Russell at 96. Yeah, that's the one there. Tommy Seymour at 86. Dunbar at 88. Jones at 84. And another Jones, Lee Jones, this is a killer, is 67. That brings it down. Of course, Stuart Hogg, how can we forget, in 88. That is a phenomenally good team. And you can see by that graph again, forwards, backs, dead even, substitutes go, whoa, way back. And that is why this team is not higher rated than it could be. You could look to this side to be a 76, 78, even towards an 80 rated if they had decent reserves. Let's see how bad these reserves are. And let's see if we can find a replacement for Lee Jones, who is rapid, but overall not too good, is he? We've got Jackson on the bench in 82. Ali Price is there, still in the 70s here though. Corey Flynn. Well, Corey Flynn. Yep, we'll move on from him. No picture from there, of course. The hooker. 26, I'm pretty sure Corey Flynn is much older than 26. But I could be wrong about that. Darcy Ray, Matt Ferguson as well. and Chris Fusaro and Lewis Wayne. Round out the substitutes bench, and it drops off quite considerably from Flynn, 65, 63, 2 60s, and a 58 as well. On the reserves, Greg gets off to a good start for 78, as does Peter Horn. Two good players have on the bench as well. You definitely swap them in for one of those back rowers in that reserves bench. Hughes drops it down to 62. They don't have much good replacements on the wing, do they? And they really, yeah, it's all 60s. Richie Vernon, now centre, of course, not the back rower he used to be. Good speed on him as well. Oh, Masunga's there. Now, Masunga should be a lot higher rated than that. Only 87 speed. He is lightning. Should be much higher than that as well. What else have they got? Another 70 in the reserves. Sam Johnson and Scott Cummins line up the rest of their side with 70s as well. Masunga should definitely be in the 70s. He should, more than that, just have like a 90-something speed. He's rapid. He should definitely way up there for speed. But they do lack on the outside backs after those starting couple who are outstanding. That is really their weakness, but their bench does let them down, especially this passage here with a lot of 60s and the odd 70 dished through there as well. But still a very, very good side for the Glasgow Warriors, and you got to say they should be one of the top teams out of the Pro 14. Next up is Leinster, and they really smash it, don't they? 77 rated. The Irish club is looking for blood. They must be really good. Let's take a look. I'm looking forward to this one. Well, you can already tell straight away there is plenty of talent here. Furlong a 93, McGrath a 93, Turner a 79, O'Brien a 91, Heaslip an 80. It's a bit low for Heaslip, isn't it? I would give him a lot more than that as well. Johnny Sexton a 93. Into the backs, Robbie Henshaw a 92. Gary Ringrose an 82. Easton Afiwa, throw him in the skip bin. And Joey Carberry at the back, an 81, just 21 years old as well. What a talent he could be. Again, like the other two sides we just looked at, reserves or substitutes bench falls away big time in this Leinster side. But how about that starting team? That is phenomenal through this side. They have a speedster as well. Adam Byrne is lightning, 100 rated speed and only 70 overall, though. He does lose out on a few other stats, but when you're that quick, who cares? Okay, let's go on to the reserves. They've got Conan there at 75. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is. Ken Healy, 69. Sure, he's only 30. I would have thought Ken Healy a lot older than that, and probably I'd give him a lot better racing than that as well. At least near an 80, if not more. Brian Byrne. Well, that is, I just second take that name, so I thought it was Byrne. I was going to say that's a bit of a weird name. He's a 69. Peter Dooley, yeah, they fall away. Scott Fardy, only a 64. Scott Fardy. Now, I'm pretty critical of Australian rugby and Australian players overall, but Scott Fardy is a real workhorse. He is a glue in a forward pack as well. Versatile, can play second row, back row, number 8, anywhere from 4 to 8, no problem. He is so much better than a 64, but career mode, I'm looking at Scott Fardy once again. And Jameson Gibson Park, former, of course, Blues player as well, moving over to Leinster. 58 rated. He wasn't that flash when he was here either, but still a good little young talent for Leinster to pick up. Dave Carney, wow! Only 64 for Carney. That is a bit harsh. Fergus McFadden, again, another player who was a superstar a few years ago, just 65 now. Richard Strauss is 66. Van der Flyer is 60. Ross Maloney, 66. Cronin, the hooker replacement, 66 as well. I mean, this is a terrible bench, isn't it? There's players that should be a lot better here that are not. They've got an extra one. It's Rob Carney at the bottom of 65. The Carney brothers have been killed here with averages in the 60s. Now, they're 70s players. So is a McFadden, a Strauss. Cronin should definitely be a 70s as well. Bent has been around a long time, should be a decent player. There's some real talent down in this bench as well, but they just don't find their way anywhere near some decent ratings. That's a real shame. Their bench falls away, but I think Leinster could be even better if some of these guys down here were rated a bit more realistically. But that's what you get. A bad season from the likes of a Rob Carney, and this is what you get. You're doomed for the career of Rugby 18. But another one, 65 for the career mode. It's good to have him. Rob Carney could be our fullback alongside Billy LaRue. Okay, we're into the second half of the teams now, and I've probably gone on far too long as per usual. We've got Munster up next, and they take it up another gear. 78 rated overall. Let's take a look at this Munster team. A lot of Munster fans around here as well, so hopefully they're not too wrong. So unlike the last couple of sides we looked at, Munster don't have the power in their front row that the likes of Leinster and co had. 78, 79 and 77 for Ryan Scannell and Kilcoyne. Into their second row, they do crack the 80s with Grobler getting an 82, but O'Shea falls under with a 79. Still solid though, still solid. Where they really get that rating is here in the back row. Stander, a 94. 87 for Omani. You'd probably say a bit harshly on that one. And O'Callaghan with just a 76. But the halves are decent as well. Conor Murray, I'd give him more. 89 to Conor Murray. Rates better than Aaron Smith, but not as good as Caraballo, was it? That's ridiculous. Murray should be equal, if not the best scrum half in this game. 95, 96, I would give him at least no lower than a 92, 94 in this game. So I think it's a bit harsh done by there, as have a lot of players. But Conor Murray is world elite, and to not have him in the 90s is a criminal sin. Tyler Blundell in 81, I feel you can take some off him and give them to Conor Murray instead. The rest of the backline, Sweetnam is a 76. The other, Rory Scannell, the other Scannell on the team is a 78. Yako Tauta is a 76. Solid backline here. Simon Zebo, I'd put in the 80s at least, low 80s. And Keith Earls, how does he not have a picture? Just 69. I mean, that is atrocious for Keith Earls. He needs to be a high 70s player. Probably what Zebo is now. And I'll put Zebo's 82, 83 if I was making these myself. Keeley's on the bench, 75 for him. So I know there's a lot of fighting at the moment, you could say, between the number 10 jumper at Munster I've seen going on, between the likes of Blundell and Keatley, to name others as well. Sherry's only 75, but it seems Blundell's winning that battle here on this game. O'Donnell on the bench, we're getting good marks here in the 70s. Holland is 74, but it's up and down, isn't it, here for Munster? Cronin at the bottom, the prop, 65. Not very good. There's the other one, JJ Henrahan. That's the other one I was trying to think of as well. Henrahan is a great little player. 74, not as good as Keatley, not as good as up here, who we had starting, I forgot his name, was Tyler Blundell. Former Crusader, of course, left and then they won a title. What does that tell you? On their reserves bench alongside Henrahan, they have Wootton, they have Copeland. These guys aren't rating too well at all, but Klein has a 71 rating, which is pretty blooming good to not be in the starting 23. Not much else going their way here. Andrew Conway just a 61, which is a pretty harsh rating as well. Chris Farrell cracks a 73, and Kevin O'Brien at the bottom there, a 70 as well for a replacement hooker. 78 rated overall, Munster, but they don't seem to really be that much better than what we've seen from Leinster, who was 77. Where do they get that extra from? I thought, based on what I was looking at there, that Leinster would have had the better overall squad, but I guess having these guys a few more, there's not really, is there? There's only a couple of 60s, more 70s as well, so they get an extra rating, but a very, very good looking team from Munster as well. Some too good though, and some definitely not good enough, a bit like Leinster. Next up are Dragons Rugby. Newport Gwent Dragons, otherwise known as, they fall away a big way, 70 rated only. So not holding too many hopes up for this team after looking at two crackers in Munster and Leinster. Let's see what the Dragons have to offer us. So you can see straight away this team is nowhere near the echelon that we're just looking at for the last two in Leinster and Munster. Their forward pack is pretty average, 60s and 70s throughout their starting team. Doesn't really have any solid stars here at all that's going to lift this team up anywhere. The highest looks to be Sweet, who is just 76. No, Brock Harris is 77, but they fall all the way down to a 69 for Reece Buckley. So average, Lewis Evans only just cracks a 70, so not good here for the Dragons. Scrum half is Cyril Pretorius, a great player in past, but probably not what he was now. 64 only, kind of makes him a bit of a weakness at scrum half. O'Brien, a good 78 though, sitting at 10 at fly half outside Pat Howard. Gets a bit of speed there as well. 100 on the left wing, is 71 rated overall. Adam Warren, this is a good back line. 78, 71, 79, 76, 60. Oh, Halem Amos is only a 68. See, I would have given Amos a lot more than that. He's quick, and he's a talented future player for the Dragons and for Wales as well. Meyer at the back at 67 let that overall backline down. It started very well after O'Brien. Pretorius, question mark over him, but definitely Amos should be a lot higher than that as well. Into their reserves, there's a few 70s here in their pack, which would fit nicely into that team, but there's no one that's going to set that backline alight, is there at all, in the reserves bench. On to these guys who don't even make it onto the pine. 60, Sam Bed gets into the 70s, but she's all pretty. Zane Kirchner's only 62. Where gets Kirchner to sit alongside Billy Leroux in the career mode? Charlie Davis is a 61. Gotta keep thinking about that career mode. I'm almost forgetting about it. Nothing happening here down the bottom, is there? Nothing happening at all. Screech is the last one, 74, which isn't too bad, but that's pretty much par with what that forward pack is. So, yeah, pretty average size, 70 rated. You'd say the Cheetahs have a fair chance of beating these guys come match day. Ospreys pick up the slack, taking the ratings up to 74, so we should see a lot better side here, but can they match what we've seen from Leinster and Munster? And who are their superstars? Let's take a look at this team from the Ospreys. Scott Baldwin is the star of a front row that is flanked by two 73 rated props as well. It's a good start here for the Ospreys because their second row looks exceptional with an Alan Wynne-Jones sitting in number 4 jersey. It gets even better too as they go to their back row for 93, Justin Tipperick sitting at 6. But there's not much to support those guys with like James King, only a 65, falls away at the end. I'm getting a bit of a surprise how this team is so badly rated, considering they look just as good so far with 90s in their team as the likes of the Leinster and Munster. So looking at the graph again, their subs bench does fall away big time. So we'll get to that in a second. Reece Webb 89, Dan Bigger 96. Massively bizarre with some others we just looked at before. I can't remember who it was that was rated under 90. It was Conor Murray. It was Conor Murray, wasn't it? Reece Webb and Conor Murray, same rating. Do you call that harsh? Do you think that's fair? I'm interested to know what you guys think as Northern Hemisphere fans between Webb and Murray. Bigger gets a 96, makes him one of the better players on the game. Dirksen drops it down big time. Kieran Fonatia only gets a 79, but he is a good little player. That's a solid rating for him. Ashley Beck, another Welshman, getting a 74 at outside centre, but Fonatia is normally a 13. And then Samuel Davis in the back cracks an 83. 24-year-old, good little rating there for him. James Hook, he's still alive. He's there with 79 as well. Nicky Smith, I'm waiting for it to fall down big time here, under 70s. Gareth Thomas, Bradley Davis, a good second row option as well. Very experienced player, Bradley Davis as well. Sam Parry, and then Lloyd Ashley. This is where it goes by in the 70s. Brendan Leonard. That's fair. I'm not a huge fan of Brendan Leonard. Average player when he was here in New Zealand, average player now that he's at the Ospreys. And finally cracking it off with Holly Cracknell. No comparison required there at all between that. Thomas Haberfield, 61. Yes, she gets pretty bad down here, doesn't it? Jeff Hassler could be one we pick up for the career mode, a winger with only 78 speed. Maybe not, actually. Ben John, Adam Baird, Paul James. It's all bad, isn't it? Fair Evans, yeah. Eli Walker only picks up a 61. Now, this guy was once touted as a great talent for Welsh rugby, yet he's fallen massively off the pace here. Again, career mode, 81 speed on the wing for Eli Walker. Maybe one we should be picking up as well. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Corey Allen, centre, 70 rated. Too good for our career mode. 33, 34, 35 players. That looks to be their team, and it rounds out with some average ones in the 60s. So, yeah, the bench and reserves does let this Ospreys team down, but I think they have a very, very good starting 15, even starting 23 as well, to put them right up there with the best of these sides in the Pro 14. The Scarlets taking up another level here too, going up to 77, so we've got a real clear difference between the top clubs and the bottom clubs here, getting those high 70s towards the low 70s. Big differences on the overall rating, but come on the field, most of the time, the starting 15s are pretty close. Scarlets, do they have it all in one, all their eggs in one basket to say? Or are they a well-rounded side in this Pro 14 competition? The outstanding front rowers are back with Rob Evans, Ken Owens and Samson Lee lining up with a 93 in the middle to Owens and mid-70s, 76 and 71 either side of him. Ball is the big talent in the second row, an 82 rating, but for a team rated 77 overall, there's got to be some big names, and looking at it, it seems like it's in the backs where they'll get the 90 rated players to boost this team. Barclay, the Scotsman, getting an 87 in the back row. He's a star there with James Davis and Aaron Shingler lining up in the mid-70s. Ella Davis, scrum half, 80, and it is Geraint Rhys-Jones sitting with an 80 at fly half. I'm waiting for the superstars. Oh, wow, we've got Lee Halfpenny on the left wing. That's interesting. Interesting to have him there as well. Jonathan Davis, there it is, the 93, that's the banger on the nail. 84 to Scott Williams. Tom Purdy as well is an 80 rated on the right wing, with Stephen Evans at fullback. Interesting what they've done there with their back three as well, with Halfpenny in that side, but that's where that big rating comes from. The likes of Davis, Halfpenny, and Scott Williams as well, boosting it up nicely, but still to get all the way up to 77, it looks like their substitutes bench is dreadful, so I'm not sure how they keep it up that high overall. Rex Patchell, another good fly half option, is just 76 rated, and their bench, wow, it does really quickly fall away. Wow, Gareth Davis only a 63. I think we've seen him in the Welsh side as well. Terrible rating for a decent little scrum half as well. The rest of the team, I mean, Rawlins falls all the way down to 62, and he's in the 23. Wyn Jones, the locking option, 69. I mean, they've got nothing over 70 here. I can see, oh, there we go, Hadley Parks and Dan Jones. Hadley Parks, 73, is probably a bit kind to him to get that high, but still that option on the reserves is pretty good. Ballbringer's there as well, 76 in the second row. Well, there you go. They've got a decent second row option to bring on, but it's few and far between. There's not many 70s here to keep this up and high. Stephen Hughes rounds out their team with 63. You can see it's justified why their substitutes graph is so low. It's pretty dreadful down here with players like Tom Williams, just 52, bringing the whole team down. But overall, their starting 15 is very good, and plenty of options as well. Very versatile backline in this Scarlets side. So good side. We've got some real far out teams here that are pushing far higher than the rest. Ulster fall away a little bit though, just down to 73. It makes them kind of decent enough to pick up those bottom teams if they don't have their day. Where do they find it though? Is the starting 15 good enough to compete with the 76, 77, 78 rated sides? So their front row is held together by one man. That is Rory Best, the Irish legend, with a 91 rating, really keeping it all together with a couple of 72s either side of him. Ian Henderson, another big Irish player, 89 rated, and he is a blockbuster as well for any team he's in. He's got decent support too. Brown is 73. Reedy is there with a 70 as well, but I mean the back row is pretty average, 70, 69 and 63. Before we get into the back line, that sees just a 63 for Cooney as well. For Christian Lealiafano, oh, he's back, and he's a 73 rated fly half for Ulster. Decent rating there as well. Charles Pietau, wow. Now this surprises me. All the talk of Charles Pietau, how amazing he is. I mean, he's a great player, but he is torn the Northern Hemisphere apart, I thought, from things you see, things you read, what you see in highlights. But just a 74, 100 speed, very good. But I'll definitely give Charles Pietau a mid-80s rating at worst if I'm doing ratings myself. It's superstar player. A bit of an insult to just be 74, especially when Jared Payne is 94. Swap those two around. Jared Payne, oh, I do not get this obsession with Jared Payne. He is average at best. I'd give him nothing over 80 at all. No way would I give him over 80. I know the Irish love him, but he's just not that good. Those two need to swap. McCloskey gets an 81. I mean, he's probably more worthy of getting something in the 90s than Jared Payne. Trimble is 66. Andrew Trimble's been around and done it all, but he only gets a 66. And Louis Ludick at the back, just a 70. Ulster. You've been done in an ill fate here on this game. Vandermerva, 74 for the replacement prop. Herb, 72. So they got decent players here. Okay, they had decent players at the top, but wow, she's getting pretty bad. Wow, Heron makes it on the bench with a 57. That is quite ugly. The reserves means Petty Jackson. Well, why would you have that? I mean, Petty Jackson changes things, doesn't he? 80 rated. He should probably be starting as well. Craig Gilroy just a 65, but very, very quick. 99. Keep in mind for career mode, Craig Gilroy, Luke Marshall, Tommy Bowe. Wow, Tommy Bowe just a 65. I mean, he's an Irish legend, isn't he? He's iconic. Tommy Bowe, you just give him more out of respect, don't you, than a 65. Stuart Olding is 75. Compare them. I mean, who would you prefer? Paul Marshall, Darren Cave, another one, 30-year-old now, but still getting just rubbish ratings. And finally at the bottom, Andrew Warwick is 68. It's pretty bad down here for Ulster, isn't it? Not great. Starting lineup looks good. Could do some tweaks, but overall, yeah, they're not probably going to challenge those top sides with a side like that, are they? Alrighty, just a couple of teams to go, and they're pretty average ones to finish off with. Zebre is the next one to look at. They are 70 overall rated, and you've got to think these guys will be fighting to the wooden spoon, the likes of the Cheetahs, who are just 69. Let's see what they've got, and if they've got anything of any real stardom, or is it just all average for Zebre? So there's not much excitement to go on about in this forward pack, with plenty of just average middle-of-the-road 70s being the stars, with Lavotti, Biagi, Kolegenberg, who sits up at 75, and Banda is 72. Maya just cracks the 70s, and Mini at the back just 71. And then it's fallen away from a couple that are in the 60s as well. They just don't give it that impact it needs. Is there more hope in the back line? Well, it starts here with Connacht, who's an 81 rated fly half. That is a big boost to have a guy directing your play that is that good. Venditti, a decent finisher as well, 73. Basegni is 72. Bonnie with a 70. There's the big drop, isn't it? There is the big drop, just a 64. Kurt Baker, 7 superstar, 85 speed. No. 65 overall, 66 overall, I should say. That kills that backline rating, doesn't it? It was looking so promising. 80s, 70s, and bang, down to 60s. What has the reserves got? We've got Minozzi with 73. Get that name out there eventually. More in the 70s as well. Then it falls away. Let's get this 23 outs. Not much there as well to go on, is there? It's just pretty average 66s. Couple in the 70s as well. In the reserves, plenty of 60s. Known real names of notes that are going to improve the side if things were accurate. That's pretty dismal, wouldn't it? There's a 72 there from Krumov, but it's really bad reading. I mean, the substitutes bench has a massive effect on these teams. No other way you can explain it. And that is average for Zebre. Average team, average ratings, just average. Last team, one to go. It is the Southern Kings, the worst team in the Pro 14, and they are the 14th team. 68 rated overall. This one will be ugly. Not many of the decent players survived the Kings when they left Super Rugby. For the 3rd season really in a row, they're playing with a whole fresh squad. Will they find more stars, or will it be another season of disappointment? They are exciting in Super Rugby, but they're failing to set things alight in the Pro 14. And it's not too much surprise, is it, when you look through their side and there's one man, Van Schalkwyk, who's 79, is probably the star. And then there's not too much else going on, is there? There's mid-70s and low 70s in the pack. But, you know, the back row falls away to 60s very, very quickly. In the halves, it's not too bad, with Kirk Coleman actually getting a 78 rating, which is pretty kind to Coleman, but they've done well to get him because he's a pretty experienced, good level player. At Super Rugby, he's played quite a lot as well. So, decent of him. Cornell Hendricks, 69, pretty good, probably a bit too good for our career mode, but Cornell Hendricks is definitely a top-class player, former Springbok as well. Probably deserves to be a bit higher than just 69. Sage is 72. Now let's fall away with a 66 as well. And the rest of that backline is average before you get to Banda with a 72. Good speed though on those guys. Hendricks is up to a 90 as well, which will be very nice to have that in our career mode. On the bench, there's a couple of 76 and 77. A good bench so far. Ferreira, DeWitt. This is nice. Okay, so there's a good boost of players there in the decent 70s as well. All round, they look pretty consistent at the moment until we get to that last guy there, Bendigana, who lets it all down with a 58. Off the bench and in the reserves, Satoli, 62, pretty average. Career mode, 84 speed would be quite nice. Stamina lets them down a bit though there. These Kings, oh well, they've only got 28 players. Oh, the Kings have only got 28 players. Oh, that's terrible. No wonder they're doing so poorly. They hardly have a full squad. Everyone else has got 35 or maybe 32. But this is the first team I've seen that has 28, not even 30 players. So that's the Kings, fairly average. I mean, you got to say though, there's only a couple of players in the 50s, which is pretty good, more than other teams can say as well. But numbers, not the best. Average team, pretty average. We could pick up a couple more of these to return to the Kings as well in career mode, if that's something you'd all like to see. So let me know in the comments about the Kings. But that is it. That is it for a look at the Pro 14 and the Kings. So there you have it. The Pro 14 led at the top by Munster, the best team on the game in the Pro 14. It's been an interesting little look and probably gone on far too long, even though I talked about it at the start, wanting to get through it pretty quickly so it doesn't drag on. But alas, whatever. That's how it goes. It always goes too long. I've got too much to say. What can I say about that? Next up will be the top 14 as well. Let me know still if you want to see Pro D2. Not a huge amount of interest in that, so at this stage, might be leaving it off the list. But top 14 will be definitely coming last but not least. But that is a Pro 14 for you all. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the player ratings, the team ratings. Do you think people are too good, too bad? Overall, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. But until next time, thanks for tuning in and watching. And until then, take care.